Hello and welcome to Unacademy IAS, a one-stop destination for all the English medium civil services aspirants. Today on the floor of the Parliament, the Finance Minister has presented the Economic Survey document. Economic Survey is a document which is published depicting what has been the performance of Indian economy in the last 1 year. And this particular document is published by the Ministry of Finance, specifically the Economics Division in the Ministry of Finance. The survey is generally published or announced a day before the presentation of the Union Budget. And tomorrow, I'm pretty sure all of you know this by now, the Union government will be presenting the budget for the next financial year. Now, before I start the discussion and tell you the highlights of the Economic Survey, I have a very important announcement to make. As a part of Republic Day offer, we are offering our courses for 12 months at a price of 23,499, and the 18-month course is available at a price of 24,999. This offer is going to end tonight. Those who are interested, please do click on the link provided in the description below. Now let's look at certain very important points that have been mentioned in the survey. Point number 1, the survey basically highlights that Indian economy has faced severe issues not only on the domestic front but also on the global front. Elections have been conducted in multiple countries. There have been disturbances in certain regions which have affected the supply of certain commodities such as crude oil, and it has also affected the international trade. And in the domestic market, though inflation was a concern, over a period of time, even inflation has moderated. So looking at all of these particular factors, no doubt in the coming year, there are certain concerning factors that can hold back the growth of Indian economy. But the Economic Survey has forecast a growth of 6.3% to 6.8% for the financial year 26. And this particular growth has been assisted in the previous year and will be assisted in the coming year because of various structural reforms that have been implemented by Government of India. For example, they talk about GST, Goods and Services Tax, which has restructured the whole indirect taxation regime in India. Or for that matter, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, which is ensuring that the capital is not getting stuck up in the economy and the resolution happens faster. It's not that these reforms are perfect. In fact, this is mentioned in the survey. There are certain various areas, even in these reforms, which needs a tweaking, which needs, let's say, changes in the coming days. That will be implemented, but no doubt, multiple structural reforms have been implemented in the domestic market by Government of India, which is basically adding to changes in the, let's say, structure of the Indian economy, which is adding to higher demand for the goods and services. For example, the Government of India's capital expenditure, on which I'll discuss in a minute, and digital transformation, for example, the usage of UPI, banking sector, etc. In addition to this, the survey also mentions that India has a target of becoming a developed country. They want to ensure very soon India's GDP will become worth $5 trillion. It will become worth $30 trillion by 2047, etc. In addition to that, they have quoted the IMF projections, International Monetary Fund projections, which say that India will become a $5 trillion economy by financial year 28 and a $6.3 trillion economy by financial year 30, which is a very good news for India. In addition to this, the survey also says that the government has implemented various reforms regarding the finances of the government. For example, take DBT, which has reduced the subsidy expenditure or controlled the subsidy expenditure of the Government of India. We have started targeting the beneficiaries. Reforms to promote demand for goods and services. Reforms to promote skilling in India. Reforms to ensure the banking sector will perform well, etc. Various fiscal prudence measure as well as the monetary policy measures have ensured there is resilience in the Indian economics performance, resilience in the banking sector, there is a deregulation of the industries which is being promoted by Government of India. All of this put together has ensured that Government of India, or let's say the Indian economy, will perform better, will remain one of the fastest growing economies in the world, and in the coming days will keep growing at a higher pace. And by the way, the growth rate that is mentioned here is the real growth rate. Now coming to a very important area which has been flagged by the government multiple times in recent times and mentioned in the economic survey as well, the capital expenditure, CapEx. There was a pandemic. As a result of the pandemic, the economy fell into recession, a technical recession. And to basically bring the Indian economy out of recession, the Government of India in multiple measures or multiple reforms has increased the expenditure, and specifically the expenditure in the capital head, which will lead to creation of assets which will have a multiplier effect over a period of time. So post-pandemic, in every successive budgets, the Government of India has kept on increasing the capital expenditure, and the survey mentions that the capital expenditure has increased or has compounded at a growth rate of around 38% between financial year 20 to financial year 25. And if you look at in what way the capital expenditure is being incurred by the government, the survey mentions NIP, National Infrastructure Pipeline, under which 37 subsectors are being covered. More than 9,000 infrastructure projects are being covered, and over 111 lakh crore rupees is being invested in multiple types of infrastructure projects. And this kind of an increase in capex is not just found at the central government level, it is being promoted even at the state government level. For example, the central government is offering 50-year interest-free loans to state governments to invest and develop infrastructure. In addition to this, the Indian economy has also invested a lot of money, specifically again focusing on infrastructure to promote renewable energy. Government of India has put a target of meeting net zero emission by 2070. In order to achieve that, it is promoting a lot of renewable energy reforms. As a result of this, the total amount of renewable energy capacity in India is 209 gigawatts. It's not just the investment is being done only to develop roads or ports for that matter, or only energy projects. The infrastructure investment or the capital expenditure is observed even in promotion of tourism. Multiple schemes have been implemented. The two schemes which have been mentioned here are Prashad scheme as well as a Swadesh Darshan scheme, under which the investment to the extent of around 800 crore rupees is being done in order to promote the domestic travel tourism industry. Next, what has been India's performance in external sector and trade performance? Like I said, in recent times, there have been certain frictions in certain parts of the global, or let's say in certain parts of the globe as such. For example, there has been, trade disruption because of, let's say, the fight that has been happening in the Middle East. The availability of water in Panama Canal has affected trade. In multiple countries, there are disruptions, as a result of which the demand for the goods and services has taken a hit. So all these particular factors, what has been the impact of all of this on the India's trade performance? And when I say trade, you'll have to look at both merchandise as well as services. The survey mentions that the merchandise trade has been affected, no doubt, but it's not as bad as it is being portrayed generally in the newspapers. For example, during April to November, was merchandise trade affected? Yes. Multiple industries, right, which export to global markets such as textile, diamond exports, which are equally labor intensive and important for Indian economy, were their exports affected? No doubt in that. But overall trade, when you look at the overall trade, the savior for Indian economy in terms of overall trade has been the services sector. It has been the services sector. Despite all of these particular concerns or issues in the global market, the services exports from India have increased. Have a look at the data given here. The services exports to the international market from India, India's share in the global service exports which was around 1.9% back in the year 2005, has grown to 4.3%, which basically means out of the total exports in the international market, India's service exports have more than doubled in the last 2 decades. And this effectively, the survey says, has helped us. It has helped us to reduce the trade deficit. Otherwise, India's trade deficit could have been much, much higher. But does it mean we should continue to have a trade deficit? No. Reforms are being implemented by the government of India in order to boost the manufactured goods from India. For example, the PLI is being mentioned here. There is a need to promote skilling. I'll talk about that. So government of India says under multiple schemes, skilled labor availability is also being promoted. So over a period of time, there are reforms which are being implemented and will be implemented in order to address and promote India's exports. And very recently also, the Prime Minister, in one of the speeches that he gave, he said India needs to not just focus on producing certain goods and services in the whole supply chain. We need to have the complete supply chain, or we need to be involved in all the production. Especially, we need to promote more and more value-added products to the global market. Okay, in addition to this, FDI, foreign direct investment. Very often there is a talk about promotion of investments in the domestic market. The government of India has implemented Make in India, Startup India, PLI, etc. in order to attract lot of investments into the domestic market. So what has been the performance of inflow of FDI, which is a very important indicator? Reason being, a foreign investor will be investing in the manufacturing or let's say services sector in India if they have very high confidence. So what has been the performance of inflow of FDI? FDI inflow has reached more than $55 billion for the duration April to November. So essentially you're seeing that in terms of let's say the trade performance, in terms of attracting investments, etc., India is doing pretty well here. Next, what about working age population? If you look at this graphical representation, no doubt India's population has increased and it is going to increase over a period of time as well. But at the same point of time, even the working age population that is available to us is also increasing, which basically gives an advantage to Indian economy. If you can harness this working age population, provide them with the skill set, ensure sufficient jobs are available, quality jobs are available in the market, you will be able to ensure the production increases, productivity increases, the overall growth and development will also be observed in the Indian economy. So in this particular context, what does the economic survey say? The working age population is increasing, which provides an advantage of demographic dividend for India. That is essentially using this population, you can produce more and add to GDP of India. That is demographic dividend. This is a sweet spot for India. We should be able to leverage that. At the same point of time, one concern for the economy was that lot of jobs are informal in nature. There is no, let's say guaranteed salary. There is no hidden benefits provided, etc. But Government of India over a period of time has been implementing reforms and ensuring that there is a formalization of Indian economy. More and more formal jobs are getting created, etc. Formalization of jobs and the rise of gig and digital economy has created more and more job opportunities, job avenues for the youth in India. For example, let's say GST, it has led to formalization. For example, let's say PMFME in the food processing sector promotes a formalization. So there are so many reforms which are promoting formalization. At the same point of time, we need to ensure there is sufficient supply as well as a demand for jobs. In order to ensure sufficient supply is there, government is promoting reforms such as PLI, and how to ensure that sufficient let's say supply of jobs and let's say sufficient skilled labor is available which will demand for the jobs, government is providing skilling initiatives. For example, more than 1.5 crore more than 1.5 crore youth have been provided skilling under PM Kaushal Vikas Yojana. At the same point of time, we have also announced a national apprentices promotion scheme where certain number of youth will be provided, let's say, with the apprenticeship program, or let's say this kind of an internship program in multiple companies. Regarding social service expenditure, what is a social service expenditure? You talk about expenditure in healthcare, you talk about expenditure in skilling, education, etc. So the social service expenditure, SSE, has increased from 23.3% of the total expenditure incurred in the budget to 26.2% in the financial year 21 to 25 duration. And this is a good indicator. Mind you, this is a good indicator. Why? Very often you talk about lesser expenditure of Government of India in healthcare, lesser expenditure of Government of India in education, but the government now says with the data, no, we are spending more and more money. And have a look at this. The social service expenditure outlay of the center plus states, right, was at around 14 lakh crore rupees in financial year 21. That is just during the pandemic time. And by 25, budget estimates 2025, we have increased it to around 25.7 lakh crore rupees. That's a very, very good increase in expenditure that Government of India is saying we have not reduced our expenditure, we have not cut down, we have not contained our expenditure, we have increased our expenditure. And what is the importance of this kind of expenditure incurred by the government? A very interesting analysis which has been done in the survey, which says increased government expenditure in all of these areas has increased the incomes of the rural households. As a result of increased incomes, the consumption expenditure gap that has existed between the rural as well as urban households, the gap has actually come down. And the situation of rural households has also increased or improved. And that is indicated by looking at, right, the Gini coefficient or the Gini coefficient. The Gini coefficient, right, which basically for rural areas has declined declined to 2.237, which was 0.266, right, earlier in 22 and 23. And in urban areas also, it has basically the situation has improved. The gap between urban as well as rural consumption expenditure, because earlier the argument was urban areas are able to earn more. The households in cities are able to earn more. In villages, which has the highest population in India, most populated is village areas. So the gap between the consumption expenditure is very high, which means the growth is centered in urban, not in rural areas. But according to the recent data, which is essentially the household consumption expenditure survey data, it shows that the gap between the urban and the rural expenditure is narrowing, is coming down. Regarding healthcare expenditure, the survey says that it is spending, the total healthcare expenditure for financial year 22 was 3.8% of GDP. 3.8% of GDP. And please understand, over a period of time, it has basically kept on increasing. The per capita expenditure is also experiencing a higher trend. That is, the trend line basically shows it has increased post financial year 19, and the total healthcare expenditure between the 15 and 22 fiscals, the share of government expenditure has increased from 29% to 48%. It's a very good indicator looking at what is the situation, what is the requirement of healthcare for population in India. In fact, yesterday I was reading an article in one of the newspaper which says one of the initiatives of Government of India where free dialysis is given to people, the beneficiaries. It has helped the people to save thousands of crores of rupees cumulatively because the, let's say, the expenditure is incurred by the Government of India on behalf of these particular patients. Next one, what about education sector? What does the survey say about education sector? The total school education system in India serves 24.8 crore students. And out of this, the government schools account for 69%. 69% is in the government schools. And the Government of India, under the National Education Policy 2020, has kept a target of 100% gross enrollment ratio. And in case of primary schools, right, it is almost universal now. We have been able to reach up to 93% of gross enrollment ratio. If you increase the enrollment, education levels will improve, availability of labor provided skilling is there, that will also improve. The survey also says the dropout rates in India have come down over a period of time, and that is because of multiple reforms which have been implemented by the government of India. So these are the most important highlights of the economic survey which has been published by government of India today itself. Tomorrow we will have a live session conducting the analysis of the budget which will be announced by the union government. Do not forget to join us in the live session. If you like this initiative, do hit the like button, provide your valuable comments in the section below, and if you yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, kindly do it right now. Thank you. Have a great day.